You would rather solve the pain points 80% for 1% of the people. But your messaging, your positioning, and everything, it should be like actually converting people into using your products. You want to try both inbound and outbound. For different products, it can work more effectively for one product than the other. The point is more important than the feature itself.
Holly, my first question for you is what do you do and why is it so important in your mind that you do it?
I don't get this question very often, so great one. So today I work as a interim CMO and a growth advisor. So I work in any given time with one main client where I act as a full-time executive managing the marketing team and marketing strategy, tactics, and working pretty much full-time with one client. And then I also actively engage deeply with 4 to 5 advisory clients where we go into both the strategy and the tactics of go to market. So I typically work with either the founder or CEO or the head of marketing to think through what kind of marketing channels we should go for. I would review their channels or strategies or plans, and we would discuss and brainstorm. So I think this is important because a lot of founders don't really get top talent for marketing, for go to market, or for growth from day one. They almost have to raise tons of money in order to get top talent. This type of advice is really important and lacking. At the same time, I feel go to market is often overlooked from early stages, try to help out founders.
I see. Thank you very much. So basically, you work to solve this main pain point, which is go to market, and you work
Mhm.
closely with early stage founders.
Yes.
Oh, that's me.
Well, actually, I work with primarily actually growth stage founders,
Okay.
then early stage founders. I have some clients who are earlier stage, but primarily post seed, I would say. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Typically, I work with Series B to pre IPO companies.
Okay. For the benefit of our audience, how do you select your clients?
Yeah, it's typically coming from my existing network, previous colleagues or VCs referring clients to me. I primarily focus on SaaS applications, horizontal products, or products targeting a professional audience. Typically, velocity, high volume type of SaaS products, product growth, that type of products. This is a niche that people know me for and come to me for.
And you currently having your own company, right?
Yeah, I run a advisory collective where there are 18 of us. We're all previous CMOs and heads of marketings, primarily in B2B SaaS. And we collectively have different expertise in product marketing, brand marketing, growth marketing, etc. And then we sometimes go into project together. Other times we are just a community of advisors and people who will ask questions and help each other.
So I'm curious, can I get selected to work with you or your team, helping my product go to market faster and more easily?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so let's play that role. So I'm just going to pretend in a similar stage. So assuming a pre-seed early stage founder, so minimum viable products is ready, pre-product market fit, just launched last week. Let's say it's a consumer or prosumer product, AI SaaS application. For instance, text to shorts like YouTube shorts generation. So what should I do now?
Yeah, I'm curious, what's their reaction so far?
So that would be your first question.
Yeah, my approach is it's not a fixed playbook necessarily for everyone. There are some frameworks that I have, but I typically ask a series of probing questions just to understand better the products or the situation, and then I can give a more tailored advice. Is it better to share those frameworks, or do you want to go down my typical process of understanding your situation?
We can do a session on more conversational role play. This product doesn't really exist, but I can still make up things. Let's say this product I released to 4 customers and I got 2 paying. And then it turns out that they're all businesses. This is the current status. So I'm charging 2 businesses already. However, I don't know if the profile of that 2 customers who are already paying should be the people who I should be going after.
Why not?
That's a very good question. One of the biggest question I want to ask you is about positioning. The thing is, with the first 10 customers, I notice I'm customizing a lot. I'm trying to do everything they want on top of my main product that I envisioned. So that's one of my problem. With deep customization, it kind of deviates from what I'm building. Maybe there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe I'll discover something that I should be building actually. But with 10 customers, maybe I really don't know if that's where I should be. So that's why I do think about the first two customers. Should I go after people like them?
Mhm. That's a very classic question. What should I build and how much should I customize, especially for more like a consumer products? And you want the product to be more applicable to a lot of people versus very like a complex SaaS product that you charge like $50,000 for enterprise companies. First of all, like it depends on what you're building. But taking a step back, I think the two questions you want to ask really upfront is what audience am I building it for, and what pain point am I solving for them? So ultimately, these two customers could be early signals or indicators that, yes, they're paying you. So you must be solving some sort of pain points for them. And what is that pain point? So the point is more important than the feature itself. The feature is just like a means to an end, but the end is more important. So at this stage, you really want to not only look at people who are already paying you, which has the strongest signal, but also talk to people who are interested or using your free version and understand their pain point. And in addition, the prospects who either they have not made the decision to try you out or they don't know about you. You want to be more proactive in reaching out to what you think could be your customers and do customer interviews and customer development to really understand the pain point. Ultimately, again, like it's the pain point, not the feature.
So essentially, it is an iterative process anyway. So maybe it will turn out to be a totally different product from where I began, right? And the only way to go through that process is actually talk to customers. The reason that I feel the first two customers I have doubt is because Michael Scott from Howard, and he talks about something called minimum viable segment. So he talks about you as a startup, you have limited time, limited people, limited resources. You have to cut through the market with a very small segment of pain point that you're solving. I probably don't want to solve all the problems, even for the first two customers. But I do struggle with that concept of minimum viable segment. In the extreme example, what if the only two customers I have already are the whole universe of customers? I just very luckily run into them in the first week. Should I think about this MVS at the beginning when I'm tuning my product?
Yeah, I in general agree with being very targeted in your audience in early days. A lot of founders say, "Oh, we're going after $1 billion market. We're solving problems for every professional." It is just not realistic. And you're going to be spreading too thin and not very focused on actually solving pain points. So, in general, I do agree that being very specific and you would rather solve the pain points 80% for 1% of the people versus solving the pain point 20% for 80% of the people. So that 1% of people will eventually pay you. And once you have won that segment, you can always expand into other segments. And by then, you already have a loyal customer base who can refer you. And sometimes you can cross sell, upsell, and all kinds of tactics can come into play.
So being targeted is important, but maybe whether the segment is big or small, maybe I don't have to think about it at this stage.
I think you want to think about, you want to have a vision of eventually where you want to go. Eventually, you want to build, I know you said like a text to shorts. Eventually, you want to build a creator platform for all marketers,
Mm.
let's say. Right? So that's possible, whatever X number of years down the road. But right now, I'm solving a very specific pain point, which is like agencies with fewer than 10 people who need to repurpose long videos for their e-commerce client. So initially you want to be super specific like this versus eventually, yes, I'm building for all agencies. Yes, I'm building for all e-commerce companies or I'm building for all B2B tech companies. So that expansion can be gradual once you won your first pain point.
How do I find those people? So now that you just define my minimum viable segment, how do I find them?
Yeah. So let's say you want to find those like fewer than 10% agencies. That's the example. Like the first place I would go just LinkedIn, right? Like search for agency or social media agency or content marketing agency or creative agency, and you can probably find like a long list of it. You can crawl them, or LinkedIn has a sales navigator where you can add accounts and people on there, and you start building a database. There's third party data enrichment tools where you can also find people's email addresses and etc. Yeah, I would like for a professional audience, LinkedIn is always a first place to go.
So that's one way of doing outreach, basically reach to the audience that we come up with together. That's called outbound. How efficient do you think that approach is? How should I set my expectation? I don't have high hope on this. Also, because I think cold outreach is very intimidating to new founders.
Mhm.
Given
Yeah, I would say you want to try both inbound and outbound. For different products, it can work more effectively for one product than the other. Let's say, so inbound, I primarily refer to content. So you want to have a very SEO optimized website, a blog post section where you write your thought leadership type of content. You want to have, depending on your product, have some tools like free tools or templates or some giveaway where people can find useful category information on your landing pages. So you do want to build a whole system of SEO optimized website and content system where people can find you and people can start building trust by reading the content, reading the thought leadership that you share. So that's more of an inbound, right? Like people find trying to solve a issue and finding your website. And the outbound is, you find a list of people that may be interested in you outbound. You have to do both.
okay,
Especially in early days, because building SEO is hard. It will take time. Sometimes you don't see anything or like very small traffic attraction in 5, 6 months, and you don't want to wait. Or if you are working in a very competitive segment. Everyone is optimizing for like AI video. Right? So it's really hard to jump out of as the type of keywords, but you still want to do it. But at the same time, you want to outbound. But outbound, I would say you want to be methodical in who you outbound to. Initially, we call this like founder led sales, right? It's like founder, you are essentially a salesperson now that you want to first identify your first degree connection or your second degree connection. These connections could be your existing network, or it could be someone you really trust who are either advisor or investor or you're really close to, and then their first degree connection, which is your strong second degree connection. Oftentimes nowadays, like LinkedIn is such a wild place where people have a lot of second degree connections that are actually not very strong. So you want to like basically categorize your strong second degree connections and then weaker second degree connections and etc. So you first reach out to the first degree and strong for a second degree. And then mobilize your existing network, other people on your team. There are tools out there actually. Connect the dots, for example, is one that shows you how strong of a connection you have with your prospects. So start from there.
let me summarize. So you're saying I should consider doing both. So both inbound and outbound. And for the outbound, that all early stage founders like myself are intimidated by. So start with strong connections. Basically, start with my network and start with strong connections in my network, those who I'm familiar with. Those are people who are probably more open to talk with me. So start from that, right?
Yep.
That's the outbound. So the inbound, create content, SEO optimized, put it on websites or other social media platforms. Is there any tools that you recommend using, like a newsletter, LinkedIn, Twitter, or TikTok, whatever? Do you see something that's very good tools that founders should start with?
Yeah, yeah. Depending on if you're building a B2C, typically Instagram and YouTube are the no-brainers to TikTok, depending on, of course, again, like your audience, whether your audience is on these platforms. For B2B, typically LinkedIn, Twitter, Substack are the places to go. YouTube, yeah, yeah. Mhm.
It sounds like both strategy will take some time. Maybe
Mhm.
I imagine, so I've been doing my YouTube channel for some time. So I do have inbound requests. from potential customers, but it did take time. The outbound for talking to people I already know, it seems faster. It seems like people are actually responding to me if I already know that person. Although that doesn't necessarily mean it can lead to a conversion. But oftentimes I notice that my friends can refer me to somebody who are more relevant, and that's extremely helpful.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
And they sometimes will overlap a little bit. For example, if you are creating great content on YouTube and then you reshare that on LinkedIn, you're repurposing the same content across your existing LinkedIn network, Twitter network, and like your Substack subscriber base. And then these people, some of them are people who actually know you in your past lives, and other people are people who are connected to them. They saw through your LinkedIn connections, shares, and comments and likes, but that they saw your post. So that's almost a combination of you are creating content for inbound at the same time it expanded beyond your first level connection.
Is there any recommended frequency of posting or sharing content?
Yeah, I would say on LinkedIn, you want to post once a week at a minimum. You want to be top of mind for your existing network and build an audience. Twitter depends on the industry. If you're in AI, Twitter is still a good place. For other things, really depends. And so that's when we look into okay, is your audience on Twitter? How many of them, and what level and seniority, and all that stuff. I would say Substack. I've seen people prolific writers do it when like every week and others do it less frequently but do a longer more substantial piece of content. Yeah, actually, like how often do you do your YouTube?
I try to post once a week.
Yeah,
I also do LinkedIn. Lately, I've been really busy, so not keeping up. But I just took note of what you said. Okay, post at least once a week. I'm not as active on Twitter. I post twice on Substack, so I have a growing community on Substack as well. But those are more like educational, so I don't have product related content just yet. But you're saying that I should post those information out as well once the product is online, right?
absolutely. You want to establish yourself as a thought leader, an authority that knows what you're talking about. You want to get people to start following you, and people who follow you typically have some sort of affinity towards the type of thing that you are building or talking about. So eventually, they will be people who amplify your message, even if they're not your customers.
What do you think of the actual content that founders should consider posting? If I say, "Oh, I built this product, come try it out," it might sound a little bit salesy during my network, but you might not want to see it all the time. Any suggestions there?
Yeah. I would say the 3 type of content. One is actually industry trends or your thoughts on the industry trends. So, like, what OpenAI has released this week, and what does it mean for AI video space, things like that. So it's like you want to add your perspective on the current news or the happening or the trends, etc. And you can also share, let's say, like a paper that's really good, but not a lot of people have heard of it. And you can summarize them and extract the learning from it and just share. So then you're like you have your second level of insights versus just sharing a link. So that's one. This like trends was your thoughts. And the second section is more like your journey, your career learnings, your leadership learnings, your startup journey, and sometimes sprinkle this like a personal there. So it's like you're seen as a real person and people feel close to you, affinity towards you, but also they can learn something from your journey itself. Either startup founders who could be your potential customers or partners, or it could be people who may want to work for you, right? So, like your leadership type of thing. So, that's the second bucket, make you more human. The third bucket is more like your product or problem space. And that, like, you can sprinkle that in maybe like, I would say like a 20%. And you don't want all of your content is all about your product or promotion or feature launches, but you do want to have them as a substantial part of your content mix.
Well, have you looked at the recent very popular AI tool called Wordware? It's gone viral on Twitter. I haven't tried it yet, but my understanding of it, it's like you get roasted by AI of your Twitter account. It's gone viral. I'm pretty sure all founders have thought about this. How do I go viral?
How do I go viral?
Yeah.
I don't know, like, part of me is a bit caution against trying to find a silver bullet. I think a lot of people wanted to find this, oh, just tell me the formula to go viral and then everything is gonna be great. If you talk to the people who created a viral video, besides like cats and kids, dogs and stuff like that, yeah, sure, like people want to look at those. But if you're like a B2B founder, how do you go viral?
I don't
Um,
know.
and it's a lot harder. I would say like consistency and valuable content is probably more achievable and realistic than trying to find some like hacks and go viral.
Yeah, thank you for the tips.
Yeah. It depends on, of course, I don't know the tool itself. So eventually, viral is a way to get people who are interested. I have seen a lot of products generated a lot of traffic, but they're actually not your target audience. They're interested, they try it out for fab type of touristy interest, and then they leave, which is actually a very big problem for AI startups, which is the retention problem. Because a lot of the AI tourists find something interesting, they register, but then they don't actually have a sustained need for the product, and then they don't pay for the product. I think that is an actual risk of very low retention of people who are actually not going to become your customers.
So in summary, virality is can be useful to drive traffic, but it may not drive the traffic that is your targeted user. So as founders, don't think about optimizing for virality, right? It's not something that we should optimize for that.
Yeah, I would say 90% of the time, you will probably have a higher chance of success of doing something that's actually valuable to your customers that you're trying to get versus trying to find a quick hit. However, it's possible that there is a viral component of your product. And for that particular audience, that particular feature or aspect actually works really well. And yeah, that can work really well as well. So it's not absolute.
Yeah, and speaking of virality, from a VC perspective, my limited observation in Silicon Valley, what kind of companies can potentially get funding? One is young founders with great pedigree, and the second one is people are looking for traction, so traction is important. And then the third one is even if you are not making money, if you go viral, that is also something that people think there's a lot of potential or opportunity there. So those are the categories of my observation that VC would be interested in talking with those founders. I struggle between the two. Should I serve the VC or should I serve the customers? And that hugely drives how I design my landing page. What about your opinion on this?
Yeah, in my mind, always the customers. Like the VC will come if you have customers. So I think a lot of founders think, oh, I need to like, so just to follow your questions, should my landing page be targeting VCs or customers? Of course, customers. But your messaging, your positioning, and everything, it should be like actually converting people into using your product. Once you have these customers, you have traction, and then VCs want to talk to you. So yeah, I think it's no doubt you want to talk to your customers.
Yeah, the examples I heard on a podcast today, someone who is a copywriter, and he expressed his frustration to a coach, go-to-market coach or whatever, about ever since ChatGPT, everybody is telling me that I'm in the wrong job. It's a dying job category. The coach, who is actually very famous, he's David Priestley. He told the copywriter, he said, "Don't be encouraged because people are telling you this. The way you can position yourself when you are talking, like networking with other people, you can say something like, I am helping startups or entrepreneurs to grow your business significantly through content creation. And I use a combination of AI and my extensive experience in copywriting. So you're upfront about you are using AI. And in addition, the human touch of extensive industry experience is important. And the third point is you're telling your potential customer the pain point, I will help you as a grow your business. It's not about I'm doing that copywriting job. It's actually about how I can solve your problem. I feel the same way when I'm doing my landing page. If I blatantly say I'm doing text to shorts, I think all customers understand that. They get it immediately. If I say something with a grand vision, that's tailored more to the VCs. So I struggle with these two messaging. Should I have two landing pages? Which one should I use?
Yeah, yeah. So there are actually two different things. One is the story you tell to investors when you fundraise. And that story, I think you should put it in your investor deck and instead of your landing pages. Your landing page is for your customers and your investor deck is for investor stories. Yeah, that sounds very absolute, but I've seen so many landing pages where it's very grand. It's like a great vision, future of work, but then no one gets what you're actually doing. What is actually the product? And then you lose people. And then no investor will care about you. So yeah, so I think in terms of the story, you want to put it in the right place.
Yeah, thank you so much for diving into these struggles. And I think those tips are really important because I don't want my potential customer to tell me that, hey, I don't know what you really do, right? Most customers won't tell me. Only my coaches tell me. You will tell me. I have no idea what you do, right?
Yeah. And that said, if you want to, let's say, build a strong brand and paint a picture of the future to your customers, and you should feel free to do so, but maybe in the middle of your page or lower in the page or somewhere that's not like top. On top, you want to be very, in my mind, descriptive about what exactly you're doing. So that people don't have to spend like mental energy to understand what is the product. And then maybe lower, you can say, oh, we're solving the problem of X. So in the future, all creators don't need to spend hours in editing videos, things like that. Yeah. And also, I think it's important to distinguish use cases and features. I've seen a lot of times people only talk about features, but they don't talk about use cases. Use cases is like, how do you actually use this feature? Meaning, like, the feature is text to shorts, but then the use case is agencies creating videos for their e-commerce clients or e-commerce startups creating content for scaled production. I'm just like throwing this out, but like the use cases make it more concrete in people's minds. And so then they know, oh, this is when I actually use this text to shorts feature.
How concrete it has to be.
Very concrete. Typically, you would have your feature page, but also you want to have a use case page or section where you actually paint the picture of, oh, there are like 5 use cases that you can use our features for.
So basically, if I'm seeing how my customers are using it, I can start with that. That's an education process, right? How I think a customer might be able to use some feature. I can just describe that scenario and then maybe show examples or even
Mhm.
little videos, tutorials, or GIF to visualize that so people can resonate with the use case more, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the
Yeah. Yeah. I know that I have to put my grand vision landing page in my pitch deck and my customer centric landing page publicly available. Okay. What do you think founders should think about competitors?
That's a really good question. The market research is absolutely necessary and it should be done even before you start creating your product. Competitor can mean different things. One is direct competitor who are building the same things, who are offering the similar features or functionalities as you do. And then you have incumbents. And typically it's a larger player whose product covers a bit of what you're building, but maybe you have a different twist around what's existing. And then you have replacements. Replacements are like either people just use Excel or don't use anything manual, right? It's like the replacement is not necessarily a similar product, but people can always don't use you. I think that these 3 buckets are typically how I think about okay, when I do market research, how do I actually understand the alternatives and how strong are the alternatives? And am I building something that is differentiated enough from these alternatives for me to actually have a market? So I almost say, even before you build an MVP, you want to think through these problems, these questions.
I have a follow up on that one. The problem for me is it doesn't happen before I build the MVP sometimes. For instance, as
Mm,
I said, I have first two customers who asked me to build something, but that also means that it actually happened before I completely understand what I'm doing, what market I'm going into, or what is my positioning or my competitors. Because the timing doesn't happen like one after the other. Maybe after 10th customer, I realize actually I need to pivot my product slightly for something else. My product at customer 10 is not the same as customer 2. And it's going to be a different market, different competitors. That's why I feel like for doing market analysis and competitor analysis, I'm always playing a catch up game. I'm trying to catch up what I'm doing and where I'm positioning myself. And I'm always changing. At least I go through this process. How do you feel about that? It's not like a B school case study that I know that I can do the market analysis and then do the MVP.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like we said, a very iterative process and it can pivot 10 times before you actually find a PMF. So I would say understand the market. You still do your research. You still need to understand who are your current direct competitors, who are the incumbents who may be going into your general area, and you understand the replacements. But at the same time, you don't stop building what you're building or changing, pivoting as you need because of them. A lot of startups fail. It could be like, oh, like a direct competitor who raised a new round of funding, but maybe they're not managed well. Maybe the next year they die. Or maybe someone like acquire them. So you can't really predict the future. I made the mistake myself when I explore like a startups. Oh, there's already someone building exactly the same thing. I'm not gonna do this. But then they die the year later. And then someone else did it like 2 years later. So I think these things always happen and you can't just like even as a founder, you're psychologically like if you're thinking about competitor every single day and try to play catch up, you're not gonna win. You wanna be aware of what's going on, but you don't want to be reactive.
I definitely feel that pain, like thinking about, oh, somebody built this. Oh, like every other week I feel, oh, we're too late in the game. So it's very hard, but I also learned that all products have competitors. I haven't found any ideas who has not been somewhat executed.
You know, even think about the food delivery space, right? It's like DoorDash is not the first one to go into food delivery. There are already so many competitors, are strong competitors out there, but DoorDash actually executed well. Eventually, they became the market winner or one of the market winners. So it's until that stage, you can't tell who's actually winning. The team that executes the best will win.
Until the dust settles, right? So
Yeah, until forever, really. Even like today, right? It's oh, who's gonna
what can
win?
change,
We
right?
can't.
It could be
Right. Yeah.
something else tomorrow for food delivery, thinking about all the services in China. Any of them
Yeah.
come to the US, then I don't need DoorDash anymore, right? So
Right, exactly.
let's look forward to that. Thank you so much, Holly. Real nice chatting with you. And I think this episode is full of useful, insightful tips and very practical tips. And I'm taking a lot of notes to set AI audiences. If you are a startup founder or if you're a marketing leader or looking to accelerate your company's growth, there is this one name that you want to know. Holly Chen. And she has, if you check out her LinkedIn, she has a very impressive track record of driving transformative results for some of the tech industry's most innovative companies. And she has established herself as a true expert in the world of growth marketing, go to market, and all those kind of things. So if you're a startup founder, reach out to Holly. And thanks for tuning in today. I'll see you next time. Thank you, Holly.